morning and my name is Cara, and you are watching Unleash Your Light, and I am so excited to be here today. Today we're going to talk about something that everybody that is here has gone through or is going through, okay? We are going to talk about the real stages of the awakening. Okay, the real stages of awakening. Real. Now, there's all kinds of little memes that have these very lofty stages. Oh, you are in discovery. Oh, you are in, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can listen to very serious people talk about the awakening, but the awakening is not always something that is, number one, very serious. Obviously, I'm a goofball, and Emily's a little goofy too. If you go back and watch our show, Freedom and Liberation, like we are cutting up through the whole thing. It's pretty funny. I just put it on YouTube, a little edited version, so it was pretty funny. So I wanted to go through these stages and address the real stuff that happens. Because when these lofty people are talking about these lofty ideals of recognizing that it is all an illusion and that nothing matters in the real world and all that kind of stuff, and I don't mean to poke fun, but applying that in a regular world when you have bills and screaming children and rude people and cars cutting you off and a terrible boss or a wonderful boss and a terrible job or whatever it is, cheating husbands and lying children and family members who've treated us like garbage and abuse running. It's a lot. And saying it's all an illusion and I'm not paying attention to any of that is bullshit. Just to come right out with it, it's BS. But it did. Okay, so the real stages of awakening, all that love and light, peace, BS, does not always apply. And if you try to always apply love, light, peace, and lollipops, you are pretty much in that space of what people are now calling spiritual bypass. If you try to wish away, visualize away, everything is beautiful and lovely and anything that's not doesn't exist, you are literally denying half of who you are. You are literally denying the balance and duality in life. Okay? Life is duality. And not to get political, it's not political. But Marianne Williamson is running for office here in the States. And those of you who don't know who Marianne Williamson is, she wrote a book called Return to Love. It's based on A Course in Miracles. It's non-denominational connection with the light, God, universe, Fred. It doesn't care what you call it as long as you're seeking it, right? So this spiritual bypass that people try to do actually makes you stuck. It actually makes you stuck. And one of the things, like I was saying, that Marianne Williamson talks about today, they're giving her a lot of crap about her stance on antidepressants, okay? Because she made the comment that there is a wide range of sadness. There is a normal human range of despair that does not need to be medicated away. Of course, yes, there are chemical situations that do mean you should have some medication. And yes, of course, if you are like on the edge, you might need something right this moment. But what happens is someone like your gynecologist or your primary physician will prescribe you any antidepressant from the person who happened to come through their office and sell them this, here, try this one. It'll be great for your patients. And then they prescribe it and they don't really know what the heck is going on. And they don't try to get to the root of it. Our medical profession tends to treat depression the same way that our government treats the problems in this country. They try to treat the symptoms and not get to the root. And so by doing that, they are missing the actual cure for the depression. I was classified clinically depressed in my 30s, and they put me on some terrible thing that gave me no highs and no lows and just made me like this all the time. And I decided I would rather be miserable like 70% of the time and pretend like I'm happy than not feel anything. But many people are looking to not feel anything because they don't want to dig into what the heck is going on with them and why they feel that way, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't take antidepressants, and neither is Marianne Williamson if you are curious. But I am saying that there is a normal range of human despair that we as a society in America have decided is not okay. The collective we in America has decided that it is not okay to be depressed. It is not okay to be sad. It is not okay to grieve, and to grieve for as long as you need to. There's a young woman who's come in and out of my shows, and she was grieving for a very long time. And every time she would start to talk about it, people would, they would kind of give her a hard time about it. And she was very defensive about it, understandably. So as soon as you started to say things about forgiveness and about letting things go and about blah, 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 that wall came up and that pushback came out, and grief takes however long it takes. And taking a pill like Xanax, Lynn Marie, absolutely. Xanax is one of those ones. Down where I was living at, it is like an epidemic that they prescribe Xanax. A lot of the kids that are in their 20s now went through this stage because they were popping that Xanax like crazy. It's very scary because nobody actually addressed why the heck they're depressed. What's leading to them feel this way, right? So all of this, absolutely, Georgia. And it is important to learn how to hold space for ourselves and others, Sarah. Holding space is one of those terms that I've never been able to kind of like get on board with, just personally, because I'm always like, I don't quite understand it. Maybe I have like a mental block about it. But also meditation is another thing for me. Like when I say meditation, when I say, I say I don't meditate. I don't meditate. Do I sit quietly and talk to the energies? Yeah. Do I talk to the spirits around me? Yeah. Do I talk to my spirit guides? Yeah. Do I sit quietly and listen to the rocks and to nature? Yeah. Is that meditation? I don't know. Maybe. I never call it meditation. So all I'm saying is that to believe that everything is love and light and perfect and ignore everything else means that you are completely missing the point of human existence. Because we have that level of normal human despair built into us. If we're supposed to come here to learn, why would the point be to not feel? If we are here to learn, why would the point be not to feel? Okay, so the real stages of awakening. Let's jump through them and tell me if any of these apply to you. Let me know what you went through in these stages. What was hard for you? What was easy for you? The first stage is questioning and seeking. So the first thing that happens is we start to notice that things are not quite what we thought. We start to be aware of there's more out there than maybe I think there are. We start to pay attention to the things going on around us. And see, there you go, Sarah. I get you. Empath becomes like a catchword. And I have found that people will use it as an excuse to not face the things that trigger them because they blame it all on being an empath. And yes, it's connected. It makes you more sensitive to it, but it doesn't mean that it's an excuse for you to not deal with that kind of stuff. So you're questioning, and then you start seeking. First, you start going, I think there's more out there. I think there's something that I'm not getting. I don't feel like religion is enough for me, or I don't feel like I'm getting enough information, or there's more. There's got to be more. And we start seeking. And when we start seeking, we can go down a lot of paths. As you all know, you're here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those paths are right here on the channel, or at least for the rest of the week. A lot of those paths are right here on the channel, from, talking to angels and doing all this kind of stuff, and, energy healing and chakras and Akashic Academy and the Galactic Light Federation and all of these things, right? So we start seeking, and each of us may find a different path. Some of us find it through Wiccan. Some of us, like I said, find it through shamanism. Some of it will find it through channeling. Some discover that they're an empath, and then they're trying to figure out how that works, because that's really the very beginning. Almost everyone in the movement is an empath and is highly sensitive to the energies. But if you stop there and say, this is what I am, now you've blocked part of your journey in very much the same way that religion does. This is all the answers in this one book, and now I don't have to seek anymore. If you stop seeking, you will not get to the next step in the journey. So I'm sure that if you're here, you're questioning and seeking. So most of us have been through that stage. So now we move on to finding and opening up. Yeah, Lynn Marie, meditation can be just washing dishes, I guess. I have a friend who says it's when she puts on death metal that she feels the most peaceful, and death metal, like heavy music and that sort of stuff, that she feels the most connected. So I don't know. Everybody's different, right? And that's finding and opening up. Everybody's different. So finding the path that's right for you is the next stage, and then allowing that to shift your perspective of the world, of reality, to shift your perspective about yourself, right? And so we start to get some knowledge, and we start to pay attention, and we start to research, and we start to learn, and we meet all kinds of interesting people, and we do this kind of stuff and watch these kind of shows, and all this kind of all of this. That's the finding and opening up stage, right? So then now we're open. Now we figured out what's going on. Now we are really like, yes, I am so powerful. And we start to embrace our own connection and our power and our knowledge and the things that we can now possibly manifest and the things that are happening in our life and how amazing we feel. And that moves us into the next stage, which is euphoria. And you feel like king of the world. And you need to tell every other person that you know that this is the right way to do it, and that they should all be doing exactly what you're doing. And if they don't, then they're going to have a big problem, right? Some people will get very militant and adamant that this is the way to do it, and you all need to do it like me, and don't you want to heal? And we get very much in other people's faces or energetic spaces because we want everyone to feel as great as we do. And once again, this is not unlike the missionary style work that Christian religions will do. They will get in your face and scream and yell at you because they want to save you, because they think you're going to hell. And in their minds, they are doing the best, most loving thing for you that they can do by pointing their finger in your face and telling you that you're a heathen and you're going to go to hell, right? So we get into this space. We get into this moment. We get into this place where we think we know everything individually. We think that we have all the answers and that we have ascended. I have ascended. I have forgiven everyone in my life. And now I can talk to fairies and manifest millions. And and we start to really feel ourselves. And some people that are in this will really they take it to the next level, y'all. And I'm sure that many of you know people like this, or maybe you're in that space right now. Now, this is not an insult to anyone who's in that space. And this is not an insult to any of you who's going through this. But what it is a recognition that this is just a stage, right? And it's almost the pride goeth before the fall. Because the next stage that you come to after euphoria, king of the world, I know everything, I'm magical, I can do this, I can do that. And all of that may be true. All of that may be true. But the next one is the deep dive into the dark. And I'm going to address, okay, let's see. Sarita says, I research there's life after death, feel energy and know if the person's no good. Pamela says she can't feel much. Pamela, the message that I'm getting, because since this is my last show, is that as long as you numb your pain, you will never get to the next place. You will never pass that stage. If you continue to numb your pain, it doesn't go away. It's always going to be a pain, of course. It's always going to be pain. It's always going to hurt. It's always going to have that place in you. But Grief does allow you to move into a stage of understanding and acceptance that once again allows you to feel in this lifetime. Grief numbs, medication numbs further the hurt of loss and grief. But if we can medicate that condition of loss and grief, then we aren't actually healing it. We are numbing it. We are pushing it down. So my hope for you is that along with what you're doing medically, that you are also getting spiritual and emotional support from someone who knows what they're talking about, and from someone who can actually help you to process this in a way that makes life tolerable again, that makes life have colors again. Okay. All right. So then we get to the dark part of the soul. Then we get to that deep dive into the dark, because things like this start to come up. It may be grief for you from 10 years ago when one of your parents passed. It might be sadness from abuse. It might be pain and anger from being pushed down your whole life. It might be, bullying stuff. All pain matters, and pain is pain. And when we get into that euphoric thing, that euphoric moment, we think that we don't have that anymore. I've mastered all of it. Because you can be in that for a minute and not feel the other stuff. But if you're actually doing the work, if you're actually doing the awakening stuff, if you're actually digging into these practices, they all lead you inwards. They all spiral towards the center. And where do we hide our deepest hurts? But deep, deep, deep inside of us, deep inside the hallways of our memory, deep inside the attics of our heart, right? Shoved in a box in the back. And we start to go into this sadness, this darkness, this pain. It's not an easy thing, but it's all for your expansion. It's all for your acceleration. It's all for your awakening, because cleaning that stuff out is healing. If you had something inside of you, like an infection, it festers until something activates it, and then it starts to spread. But you kind of feel low-key crappy for a while until it gets activated, and then you feel real crappy. That's what these things are that we hide away. That's what these experiences are that we go through, is little tiny infections that are simmering and simmering and simmering back there. And every once in a while, one of them bursts, and we end up being sick, getting mad, lashing out, being in pain. Digging back into that stuff is how you find the next level. Digging back into that stuff is how you get to the next stage of awakening. And it's not like this happens once. There's usually one big one right after euphoria, okay? And a lot of people at that point, they step off. They're just done. I have a friend who was very incredibly gifted medium, incredibly gifted reader, and she got to a particular point in her journey where her own stuff from her childhood was coming up, because she kept reading people who had the same issues. She kept having messages for people about those same issues. And she stepped off for a minute, a year and a half, just stepped out of the whole thing, threw her hands up. And that's our choice. We get to choose, right? And those little dark spaces will pop up over and over again. But what happens is we learn new tools to deal with them. You don't go back into that deep dive. You don't go into that pool without your goggles, your scuba tank, your spear, your chainmail suit. You're not diving naked into the pool of your past pain. You are now protected You now have tools. So it is not as scary as we think it is, as long as we are taking our tools with us. Kind of like the movie It. If you haven't seen the movie It and you're scared of clowns or something along those lines, when they stopped exhibiting the fear of what it was, they were able to see it for exactly what it was and defeat it. I mean, now there's an It too, so who knows? But you get the point. They were so scared of the thing and the past and the way that they felt that they weren't even able to see it through the eyes that they had now. They only saw it through that fear, which gave them a completely different perspective on it. This is what our life is like. We can now look back on those places and not sink into them, but rather experience and process them in a different way, or re-experience and process. Robin, thank you so much. It is so kind for you to reach out to Pamela. That's wonderful. And yes, Cindy, it does not stay gone. You are 100% correct. It does not stay gone, especially if you haven't pulled out the root. I've said this a million times. It's like plants in the garden. You come along with your scissors and you cut off the top of the plant. It looks pretty for a while, but a new plant starts to grow up because you've left the roots. You've left the roots. I've told the story about having a car accident and I had glass shattered all down my side. And they pulled out what they could, but they said, well, basically, over the next several months, the glass is going to rise to the surface and cut its way out. And that's kind of what this pain is like once we go into that space of the deep dive into the dark night of the soul, whatever the heck you like to call it, you know. It's necessary. It's necessary because we are emotional hoarders and we don't want to deal with that stuff that we've hidden in the back of the closet. It's just natural. We're human and we try not to feel that. And then we're in the awakening and we're really trying not to feel it. And then we add a layer of guilt and blame and shame because, well, I'm this spiritual person and I talk to fairies, but here I am, you know, feeling like a dumbass because someone pulled my hair in 3rd grade and I can't stop crying about it because nobody will ever love me. Like, it creates these very strange pathways, these things that have happened to us that we're not cleaning this stuff out. Right? But when we look at it differently, we can get through this thing. Some people think once they go in the dark, they'll never come out. You know what? Bring a flashlight. Wait, guess what? You are the flashlight. You are the light. You are the connection with God. You are the thing that is going to shine on all of the things that has happened to you and shine healing on it because you are accessing the light of the universe, the light of God, Gaia, Source, Fred, it doesn't matter what you call it. That's what you're doing in the dark, is you are shining your light on those things. Now, the thing I want to tell you about this is that when we do this deep dive, we feel sometimes like we are never going to get out of it. Guess what? It gets easier. And if you have to deep dive into the dark again, because yes, it is a stage that repeats over and over and over again. If you have to dive again, it's a little easier. And they get further and further apart. And you have more and more tools. And you're able to see things in a completely different way. Let's see here now. Pamela says she's gone out barefoot and asked Mother Earth to help her. Pamela, that is a beautiful thing. You have to be the one to speak the words of God into your soul for healing and for love and for forgiveness of yourself. And for that. And yes, asking Mother Earth to help you is wonderful. It's great support. But we have to do that hard work ourselves for it to truly take root, for it to truly be, like healing. And like I said, it's never going to be gone. It happened. But you can shift your perspective on it and get support from everywhere, everywhere. But, it really takes us personally recognizing that we are the ones who are healing ourselves with the light, with the energy, that we're accessing it ourselves. Because if you think that it's something outside of you, then you won't fully get the benefits of it. And that's part of the spiritual bypass thing. A lot of people will learn 20 different, modalities of healing and reading and all this kind of stuff, but they never actually deal with it personally. So they think that they're dependent on all those things out there to feel better. And it might give them temporary respite from what they're going through, but it doesn't actually crumble it away. It doesn't actually make it so that it is a healed spot. It's a hard place. So the next section, the next stage in development is the one that after that we kind of wander around in. I didn't even put enlightening on this list, like totally enlightened, because I don't think on our human journey we ever get there. And I don't really think it's the absolute point. I think the point is to be human. The point is to feel this kind of stuff. And the point is to integrate the human with the energy of the universe so that we can use our human brain and our human body to amplify the frequencies. Okay. So the next section is, you know nothing, Jon Snow. And that is like what I call the stage that most of us are wandering around in all the time, recognizing that we really know nothing. Recognizing that we really don't have the answers, and maybe nobody does right here. Recognizing that you know nothing is one of the most powerful things that you can do. Recognizing that I'm not healing anyone is the most powerful thing you can do. Recognizing that you don't have this magical power that you're going to save the world with is one of the most wonderful things you can do. And yet all of those things are also true. They are also true in an abstract way, because what we are doing will save the world. What we are doing will heal people. What you are doing will help people. But it's not the only way. And I always think of it like we're trying to learn a language that we have no actual, deciphering. What do they use, those code things to figure out what the alphabet is? We don't know the alphabet. We've never heard the language spoken. And here we are trying to tell people that we know what's going on. I also liken it to religion a lot, because they believe that all the answers are in their book and that's it. But those who recognize that there is more to the book they have a very different view on the world, and they get a very different connection with that energy of God, of the light, of source, whatever you like to call it. Sarita, please make sure that you're taking time for yourself. Because all of those problems are people around you. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed focusing on them and ignore what's going on with you. Okay? I want you to really, really, really pay attention to that. One of the hardest lessons that we learn is that we can't save those that we love. We can't always be the knight in shining armor for people that we love, that we want to save, that we want to change, that we want to live. We can only do that for ourselves. We can only do that for ourselves. And that is a very hard thing to digest. And it's part of that deep dive into the dark, recognizing that the only person that I can affect really is me. Even though through my service, I affect everyone. Even though through my own growth, I'm affecting everyone in a frequency. So I want you to really pay attention to yourself, to your own health, physical health, Sarita, okay? And y'all who watch me a lot, you know that I don't usually do this kind of stuff on this show. So Sarita, you can get my book at unleashyourlight.org. Right now I have it on a PDF. If you sign up for my newsletter, you will get it for free, as well as another book about learning how to love yourself unconditionally, which is Simple Spirituality of Self. Now, I had a meeting with my publisher yesterday, and so we are moving forward on publishing the book. I got my first edits back, so I have homework to do before I go on my trip with my son next week. And once I turn my edits back in, I'm taking down the free version. Okay. So if I'm taking down the free version, y'all need to make sure that you have gotten it for free before it comes out in its next incarnation. Now, I would love for you to buy it because it's going to be paperback size. You're going to be able to carry it around with you. It's really simple stuff, and it's really important stuff. And please come over and find me. And, you know, I'm going to be busted out, y'all. So I love you guys. I'm so grateful. Please come find me next week on Thursday. I will have pictures from my trip to DC. And I don't know what we'll talk about, but we'll figure that out on the flip side. I love you guys so much. Boop.